Your gut is not just a digestive organ. It is the command center of your entire body. It produces more than 90% of your serotonin. It houses roughly 70% of your immune system. It communicates directly with your brain through a dedicated biological cable that runs from your stomach to the base of your skull. And right now, for most people reading this, that command center is under siege. The bloating you have normalized, the 3 p.m. energy crash you blame on bad sleep, the brain fog that makes simple tasks feel like pushing through wet concrete. These are not random inconveniences. They are distress signals from a gut ecosystem that has been quietly breaking down, often for years, often without a single dramatic event to point to. The damage accumulates slowly. A few rounds of antibiotics, years of eating the same narrow range of foods, chronic low-level stress that never fully releases, late dinners eaten in front of a screen. None of these things feels like a gut attack in the moment. But over time, the microbial balance shifts, the intestinal lining weakens, and the entire downstream cascade of symptoms follows. In this video, we are going to fix that. Not with a cleanse protocol or a supplement stack, with the 5 biological mechanisms that actually govern how your gut cleans, repairs, and restores itself, and exactly how to work with each of them. The first mechanism is one that almost nobody in the wellness space talks about because it does not cost anything and you cannot sell it. It is called the migrating motor complex, and understanding it will immediately change how you think about snacking. Your small intestine runs in 2 distinct modes. When you are eating, it is in processing mode. Enzymes are breaking down food, nutrients are being absorbed, and the whole system is operating at full capacity. But your gut has a second mode that can only activate when the first one is switched off. This is the cleaning mode, a powerful muscular wave that travels the full length of your small intestine, sweeping residual debris, dead bacteria, and undigested particles down into the colon where they get eliminated. The critical rule is this: the cleaning wave only starts when your stomach has been empty for at least 90 minutes, and the full sweep takes another 90 minutes to complete. That means your gut needs roughly 3 uninterrupted hours between food inputs to run one complete cleaning cycle. When you eat breakfast, then a coffee with oat milk, then a mid-morning snack because someone told you grazing keeps your metabolism up, you are shutting that cleaning system down before it ever gets started. The debris piles up in the small intestine. Bacteria that should have been swept downstream are allowed to stagnate. They begin fermenting food in a location where fermentation should not be happening. This is the biological root cause of the bloating, the gas, and the discomfort that most people treat as just a fact of life. The intervention is simple. Space your meals by 4 to 5 hours and eat nothing in between. That low rumbling you hear when you have gone a few hours without food is not your body begging for a snack. That is the sound of your cleaning crew finally getting to work. Let it finish the job. The second mechanism is about what you are feeding the ecosystem inside you. Your gut contains roughly 38 trillion microorganisms. Bacteria, fungi, archaea, and viruses, all coexisting in a balance that took millions of years to evolve. These organisms are not passengers. They manufacture vitamins, regulate your immune response, produce neurotransmitters, and maintain the integrity of the physical barrier between your gut contents and your bloodstream. When the balance tips in favor of harmful species, that barrier starts to break down. Microscopic gaps open in the intestinal lining. Undigested food fragments and bacterial toxins leak through into the bloodstream. Your immune system detects foreign particles and mounts a response. Because the breach never fully closes, the response never fully stops. That is chronic low-grade inflammation. And that inflammation is the upstream cause of an enormous range of conditions that most doctors are treating at the symptom level rather than the source. The single most powerful way to restore balance is diversity. Not just eating more fiber, but eating a wider variety of plants. Different bacterial species feed on different compounds. The bacteria that thrive on the fiber in garlic are not the same species that feed on the resistant starch in legumes or the polyphenols in blueberries. A landmark research initiative called the American Gut Project found that the strongest predictor of a healthy gut microbiome was not any specific superfood. It was the total number of different plant species a person consumed in a week. The sweet spot they identified was 30 or more different plants per week. This sounds like an overwhelming number until you realize that herbs, spices, nuts, and seeds all count. A pinch of turmeric counts. A tablespoon of flaxseed counts. The goal is width, not volume. Eating a massive bowl of the same vegetable every day feeds one narrow group of species, while the rest of your ecosystem starves. Eating smaller amounts of 10 different plants feeds 10 different communities. That is how you build a resilient internal garden that crowds out the harmful species naturally. The third mechanism is about timing, and it is one of the most underestimated variables in gut health. Your digestive system does not operate at the same efficiency around the clock. It follows a circadian rhythm, just like your brain and your hormones. Digestive enzyme activity peaks in the morning and early afternoon. Gut motility, the physical contractions that move food through your intestines, is strongest during daylight hours. Insulin sensitivity is highest earlier in the day and drops off significantly as the evening progresses. When you eat a large meal at 9 or 10 at night, you're asking your digestive system to process a full workload during its off-peak hours. Food sits in the stomach longer than it should. Blood sugar stays elevated for extended periods. And because your body is simultaneously trying to initiate cellular repair, regulate hormones, and consolidate memory during sleep, the energy demand from late digestion actively competes with all of those restorative processes. There is a compounding effect through your gut bacteria as well. Many of the species in your microbiome have their own circadian rhythms. They migrate, multiply, and perform different functions at different times of day. Disrupting their cycle disrupts the production of serotonin and other neurotransmitters they help synthesize. Poor gut rhythm leads to degraded sleep. Degraded sleep intensifies sugar cravings the following day. Those cravings drive late-night eating again. The cycle feeds itself. Confining your eating to a 10 to 12-hour window during daylight hours is the structural correction. It aligns your food intake with the periods when your body is biologically equipped to handle it, and it gives your gut lining the overnight window it needs to repair itself without the interference of active digestion. The fourth mechanism pulls us away from food entirely, because there is a reason you can do everything else right and still have profoundly disrupted digestion. That reason is the vagus nerve. Your nervous system operates in two primary modes that cannot run simultaneously. Sympathetic mode, which you know as fight or flight, and parasympathetic mode, which governs rest and digestion. When your nervous system perceives a threat, it redirects blood flow away from your gut and toward your muscles. Stomach acid production decreases. Gut motility slows. The entire digestive apparatus essentially goes into standby. The problem is that the modern world keeps most people in a low-level sympathetic state for the majority of their waking hours. Background stress, notifications, deadlines, a constant ambient anxiety that has become so normalized, we no longer register it as stress. This means that even when you sit down to eat a nutritious meal, if you are distracted or mildly tense, your body is processing that food with the power turned down. It ferments instead of digesting. The nutrients are incompletely absorbed. The lining of the gut, which requires healthy blood flow to maintain its barrier function, slowly degrades. The fix takes 30 seconds. Before you take your first bite, take 3 slow breaths and make your exhale twice as long as your inhale. This specific breathing pattern activates the vagus nerve and physically shifts your nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic. It is not a relaxation technique. It is a physiological switch. It changes the actual chemical and mechanical environment your food enters. Your body was designed to receive food in a state of calm. That one habit, consistently applied, changes how your entire digestive system performs. The fifth mechanism is defensive, because all of the work done by the previous 4 gets quietly undermined if you are simultaneously exposing your gut to the compounds that dismantle it. The first threat is antibiotic exposure, both direct and passive. Antibiotics are critical medicines that save lives, but they do not distinguish between harmful bacteria and the diverse ecosystem you have been working to build. A single course of broad-spectrum antibiotics can eliminate a significant portion of gut microbial diversity. Research shows diversity can take 6 months to a year to recover, and some species may not return to their previous levels at all. The passive exposure through conventionally raised meat compounds this over time. Choosing antibiotic-free animal products reduces the cumulative load significantly. The second threat is pesticide residue on produce. Several widely used agricultural chemicals were originally developed as antimicrobial compounds. When you consume residue from these chemicals on your food every day, they exert a measurable disruptive effect on your gut bacteria. Prioritizing organic for the highest residue fruits and vegetables. Strawberries, spinach, apples, and grapes near the top of that list is a direct investment in microbial resilience. The third threat is chlorinated tap water consumed throughout the day. Chlorine is added to municipal water to prevent bacterial contamination in pipes, which is a legitimate public health measure. But it does not stop working when it reaches your gut. A basic carbon filter removes the majority of chlorine from your drinking water and eliminates one layer of the daily antimicrobial assault your microbiome is absorbing without you realizing it. None of these changes are dramatic. They are small reductions in daily damage. But damage reduction is the prerequisite that allows everything else to actually work. Here is the unified picture. Your gut is not damaged because you made one catastrophic mistake. It is strained because the default conditions of modern life work against almost every mechanism your gut relies on. Constant grazing that never lets the cleaning wave run. A narrow, repetitive diet that slowly starves most of your microbial ecosystem. Late eating that disrupts the biological clock of every organism living inside you. Chronic stress that keeps digestive power permanently dimmed. And invisible daily chemical exposure that chips away at diversity without a single symptom you would recognize in the moment. The recovery does not require a protocol. It requires understanding the operating conditions of a system that has been running inside you your entire life. Space your meals. Feed your full microbial range. Align eating with daylight. Breathe before you eat. Reduce the chemical load. These are not hard changes. They are just the right ones. The gut is extraordinarily forgiving when you give it the right conditions. The cells lining your intestinal wall replace themselves every few days. The microbial balance can begin shifting within 48 hours of a dietary change. The system is not broken. It is waiting for you to change the environment. If this gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening inside your body, make sure you subscribe. There is a lot more to uncover. And tell me in the comments, which of these 5 mechanisms do you think has been your biggest blind spot? I want to know. See you in the next one.